Most business owners are prompting AI completely wrong. And I don't mean it could have been a little better. I mean wrong in a way that's actively costing them. Mediocre content that doesn't connect, outputs that sound like they were written by a committee, and hours wasted tweaking something that still doesn't sound like them. Bad prompting isn't just a time problem, it's a revenue problem. So here we are. Today I'm pulling back the curtain on the actual prompts I use in my business. Not the polished, pretty ones that look good in a screenshot, the real ones, the messy, specific, sometimes embarrassingly simple ones that are driving real results. And here's the thing I want you to sit with before we get into this. The prompts themselves are not magic. I know that sounds like the world's worst tease when you clicked on a video literally called the prompts I use to grow my business, but stay with me because why these prompts work is the part that's going to change how you think about this entirely. This is why everyone's prompting wrong. I'm going to paint you a picture. You open a blank chat window, you type something like, write me an email to my list about my new workshop. Make it sound like me, be conversational, and include a clear call to action. You get something back that's fine. It's technically correct. It has a call to action. It's vaguely conversational, and it sounds absolutely nothing like you. So you spend 20 minutes tweaking it, getting increasingly frustrated, and eventually you either abandon it or publish something that makes you cringe a little every time you read it back. Sound familiar? So here's the thing. The problem isn't your prompt. The problem is that AI is guessing about everything. It doesn't know you. It doesn't know your audience. It doesn't know that you'd never say something like game-changing, so overused, or level up, or without further ado, it's building something for a house it's never seen, with no blueprints, no measurements, and no idea who's going to live there. That's the contractor analogy that really changed how I work. So imagine hiring an incredible contractor. They're brilliant, fast, capable of building anything, and then walking them to an empty lot and saying, build something good. They'll build something, it just won't be yours. The prompts I'm about to share work because I did the work before the prompts. I have a handful of voice guides. The primary voice guide is a document that captures exactly how I write and speak. I have an audience profile, not female entrepreneurs 40 to 55, but a specific person with specific fears in specific language and specific things that make her click away. And I have a business context document, which is my philosophy, my offers, my goals, what I stand for, and what I call BS on. The foundation is why a 3-sentence prompt produces something I'm actually going to publish. All right, so now we're going to jump into the content creation prompts. The first one, this is the newsletter starter. So I've been writing a newsletter for over 5 years, and this is the one I use almost every time when I'm about to write the spark. And I want to show you how simple it actually is. With my voice guide and audience profile already loaded into my project, here's the prompt. Write this week's newsletter opening. I want to start with the moment last Tuesday when I was building inside a cursor and realized I'd been overcomplicating the whole thing. The tone should feel like I'm telling a friend over coffee. A little self-deprecating, genuinely excited. Bridge it into why most people make AI harder than it needs to be. That's it. I don't tell it to make it conversational. I don't say my target audience is female entrepreneurs. No, include a personal story, because all of that is already in the foundation. The prompt is short because the work was done up front. So compare that to what a lot of people write, which is something like a 300-word prompt engineering masterpiece that still produces something generic. And then they wonder why they're exhausted. All right, the next prompt is the repurposing prompt. This one I use after every video and every newsletter issue. For example, here's this week's Spark issue. I want to turn this into a LinkedIn post that leads with the most counterintuitive thing in here. 3 short-form social posts that each stand alone, not a series. And a subject line test. This is fun. Give me 5 options that would make Sandra open this even if her inbox was a disaster. And Sandra is my customer avatar. What I love about this prompt is the word Sandra. My AI knows exactly who she is. I don't have to explain her. It's not vague. When I say, would Sandra open this, I get options that are specific to her psychology, not generic clickbait. So here's the next one. The I don't know where to start prompt. And probably use this more often than I care to admit. This one is for when I have an idea, but it's stuck in my head in a jumble. I want to write about insert whatever topic, but I'm not sure of the angle yet. Here's everything I'm thinking about it. And then I just go and do a brain dump. And keep in mind, I dictate everything. And so my sentences are short, they're cut off sometimes, I hop around, but help me find the strongest angle for my audience, the one that would make Sandra stop mid-scroll and feel like I'm reading her mind. This one gets me unstuck faster than anything else I've tried. Instead of staring at a blank document for 45 minutes. I'm in conversation with something that already knows my audience. I bring the raw thinking. It helps me find the shape. All right, this is a fun category. This is the strategic sparring prompts. Probably one I'm most excited to talk about because this is where AI stopped being a writing assistant for me and became more like a really well-informed thinking partner. I call it sparring, and the rule is I bring my thinking first, always. So here's the first one we're going to do. This is the offer pressure test. Before I launch anything, a workshop, a product, a new offer, I do this. Here's the offer I'm considering, and I explain the offer. Here's who it's for, how I'm pricing it, and why I think it solves a real problem. And I explain the reasoning. What am I not seeing? What assumptions am I making that might be wrong? What objections would my audience have? And I mean it when I say I want the holes poked. I don't want validation. I have friends for that, although I can't say that they're yes people either. But I want the thing that makes me go, oh, I hadn't thought of that before. The key is that my audience profile is already loaded. When I say my audience, it knows I mean Sandra. It knows she's been burned by expensive program. It knows she has completion shame from courses she didn't finish, probably because they were too long. It knows urgency-based tactics make her bounce. So the objections I get back are her objections, not generic buyer psychology from a marketing textbook. All right, the next one, this is the decision-making prompt. Okay, so here's an example. Recently, I was trying to decide whether to build a specific new product. I didn't ask AI, what should I build? I never do that. Instead, here's my analysis of what I'm considering building. I explain the thing. Here's what I'm not sure about. And then I explain honest gaps or challenges or thoughts that I can't seem to bridge together. Identify the risks I might be rationalizing away. What are the scenarios where this fails? What am I assuming is true that might not be? The results from that are much sharper decisions. And critically, it was my decision, my thinking strengthening, not outsourced. That's the line I never want to cross. These women we're talking to, you have years of business experience and real judgment. AI should be sharpening that judgment, not replacing it. Okay, now we're going to do the build prompts. This one is fun. Well, they're all fun. If you've been watching this channel for a while, you know I've gone deep into vibe coding, building actual tools and apps without writing code. And the prompts I use here follow the same pattern. Short, specific, rich context already loaded. All right, so here's a great one. This is the build starter. I want to build a quiz that helps my audience figure out where they actually are in their AI journey. Not generic, beginner, intermediate, advanced, but something that feels specific to how a non-technical female entrepreneur actually thinks about this. Here's the concept. I give the description again, and then start with the question flow. Each result should feel like it was written for one specific person, not a demographic. Short prompt, loaded with context. Again, my AI knows who my audience is, right? It knows what that means. It knows what feels specific means in my world. It knows the difference between content that makes Sandra feel seen and content that makes her feel like a generic marketing persona. All right, and now we've got the feedback loop. This one I use constantly while I'm building. All right, here's the prompt. Here's what I built and here's what's not working. Of course, describe the problem. I want to fix the login issue, for example, without breaking the front end, generic. What are my options? Walk me through the trade-offs. The trade-offs piece is important. I'm not asking it to just solve the problem. I'm asking it to help me think through implications. And when I do this, I tend to put AI in planning mode so that I'm using less tokens. Side note, that's the sparring partner mindset applied to building. So here's the thing that I want to leave you with. None of these prompts are magic formulas. They're not something you paste in and hope for the best. They work because of what's behind them. The voice guide, the audience profile, the business context. Essentially, it's the foundation. If your AI outputs feel generic, that's almost certainly why. And the good news, building that foundation isn't a 6-month project. It's like a Saturday morning. Sit down with your last 5 newsletters or your last 5 emails, your DMs from clients, content you've created. Your voice is already there. You just haven't documented it yet. Do that first before you optimize your prompts, before you try a new tool, before any of that. Build the foundation, then come back and use these prompts. The difference, I promise you, will blow your mind. I'll catch you next time.